Budget-priced LED panels have not had the greatest reputation in the past, but over the last year or so, GVM has been pumping out some noticeably improved panels, and for me, it started here with the 850D. So when GVM reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to check out one of their newest and most powerful LED panels, the 1500D, I said send it on. Now, just so you know, GVM doesn't get to see this video ahead of time, and all these opinions are mine and mine alone. So let's take a look at this big chungus. Let's quickly go over some of the specs here. These panels have a 75 watt power draw, producing 27,000 lux at a half meter. Has a 97 CRI color accuracy. It's bicolor from 32,000 to 56,000 degrees Kelvin. Mobile app control is through Bluetooth instead of Wi-Fi. We'll get more into that here in a bit. We have full RGB colors. There are over 1,000 LED beads on here. Now I have the 2 light kit here, so you're going to also get 2 power cords along with 2 light stands. Note here that they've upgraded the stands with the 1500D panels versus the ones with their smaller panels like the 850D. It has a wider base, it's also a bit taller as well. And everything comes in probably one of the nicest cases I've seen in a budget LED panel set. Now the light output of these panels isn't so high just because of the number of LEDs. The bicolor LEDs actually have little lenses on them, which helps to focus the light, producing more light output. The mounting bracket is all metal, feels pretty solid. Most folks will simply mount the lights vertically. The problem is that if you do decide to keep the barn doors on, they're going to bump into the bracket so you can't get full rotation. To get around that, you can actually mount them horizontally. Then you get a nice full range of motion. Now, if you remove the barn doors like I do, then you won't have any rotation problems even when you mount them vertically. Speaking of barn doors, they are plastic, but they do get the job done. Keep in mind, these are budget-priced LED panels. For me, the barn doors aren't super useful. Your mileage may vary, but I just remove them. To take them off, you just need to remove the 4 thumb screws at each corner. For me, I actually had to use an L wrench as they were a bit too tight for me to just remove with my fingers. Like a lot of these light panels, you've got plug-in power as well as NPF battery support. I would definitely recommend you go with the larger 970 batteries. These things draw a lot of juice and you want the most oomph you can get. So let's do a little comparison between the 1500D and the smaller 850D. The background color gradient look is pretty popular, so we'll go with that. I'm going to set these panels to blue at their maximum brightness. The camera I'm using is a full frame Sony a7C, ISO 100 at 24 frames per second. I've got the shutter at 1/50th, and I'm using a Sony 35mm f1.8 at f2.8, which is usually what I'm shooting at. Here's just a single 850D panel from about 2 feet away from the background. Now here's a single 1500D panel. Now let's try 2 850D panels. And now 2 1500D panels. And now here's all 4 setups for comparison. Also keep in mind, there's no fan in these panels, so you're going to have 0 issues with audio. The entire back of the panel is all aluminum, basically acting as one big heat sink. Now let's talk about actually using these panels. If you've used similar panels in the past, this should all look very familiar to you. In fact, the back of this is exactly the same as the smaller 850D Pro, except of course for the metal backing here, which is obviously much larger on the 1500D. You have a rocker switch here for power. Pressing it on the 2 light side was what you would do if you were powering from battery. The 1 line sign here, and now we're on AC power. The first mode is rotate. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not exactly sure why it's called rotate, but you can fully control the panel in this mode. Press the mode button to change modes, obviously. You have master and slave. Now, in this configuration, if you set one panel to master and the other to slave, whatever settings you put on the one labeled master will automatically sync up to the other panel that's labeled slave. And then lastly, you have app where you can fully control the panel from the mobile app, which we'll get into here in a minute. So for now, we'll just leave it on master. Here you have your brightness knob. And then over here is where you change your color settings. We're in color temperature mode right now. So turning that around is going to change your color temperature mode from 5600 degrees Kelvin all the way down to 3200 degrees Kelvin. Press in the button to change the operating modes of the panel. So as I said, we're in color temperature mode right now. Press it in. Now we're into hue, where you can change the actual hue of the color of the LED beads. Press it again, and now you're adjusting the saturation. Press again to go back to color temperature mode. And that's pretty much it for the controls on the back of the panel. Very straightforward, very simple, very easy to use. So when you first start up the app, and as long as you have your panel set to app mode, you should see your panels come up here on the screen. Unfortunately, they're not named very well. If you have multiple lights going, you're just going to have to guess which one is which. Since I just have one panel on, there's only one listed, kind of a no-brainer. Click connect. It doesn't seem that this app will work in horizontal mode, so we're going to have to flip this up. Opal. Don't knock over my screen. Opal, stop. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Will you stop? Stop. So once you've connected to your light, you can see up here the different modes. By default, it's coming up in CCT mode, and you just have a slider here where you can adjust the brightness. And then down here is where you can control the color temperature mode. One thing I have noticed, this panel seems to have its maximum output at 4400 degrees Kelvin. So that means both the cool and the warm LEDs are at their max brightness when you're at 4400 degrees Kelvin. Just something you might want to keep in mind. And goodbye, Opal. Click here to go over to HSI mode. Again, you can just pick your colors right in here. Down here, you can set the brightness and, of course, your saturation level. Move all around here. Really, really straightforward, really pretty easy to use. And here is where we have everyone's favorite, the special effect modes. So we have lightning, we have candle, bad bulb, disco, cop car, TV, party, and paparazzi. Those are all of the different effect modes. And of course, you can control the brightness of that effect and how quickly it cycles through. Now, let's go back to the HSI mode. So let's say you were looking for a nice blue color. You wanted it at about 80% brightness or so, and you wanted the saturation maxed out. And maybe this is a color that you're going to use a lot. Well, if you click the little disk icon up here, you can save that setting. We'll call it blue background. Confirm. Now it saves those settings under the tab for My Scene. So all you have to do is select that, and then you will automatically go to that exact setting that you had chose previous. It's a nice little time saver. Other than that, that's really about it for this app. Again, like I said, very simple to use, very straightforward, works pretty well. Thankfully, GVM has gotten away from using Wi-Fi for their connectivity from their app to control their panels and have gone with Bluetooth. This is a big deal for me. Previously, where you took your mobile app, you would have to connect to the Wi-Fi SSD on the panels, which means once you were connected to the panels, you no longer had internet connectivity with your tablet or phone or whatever device you were using. That was a big pain for me. With Bluetooth, I no longer have that issue. It also connects much, much faster, and the responsiveness is very, very quick. There's just the slightest delay when I make a change and the panel actually responds. These budget panels have come a long way since they started being wildly available a few years back, and I can't help but be impressed with the 1500D. It's got a good build quality, great color accuracy, is one of the brightest budget LED panels out there. Considering how much these panels have improved over the past few years, it's hard to not be excited about what we're going to see in the next couple years to come. Thanks for taking the time to watch. If you've got any questions, let me know down in the comments. Have a good one.